Start with some introductions of our panelists. If you could share your name, your pronouns, whether you were MS professional or thesis track while you were here, and if you were thesis or research or focus area, or if you were professional for your focus area, flex robotics, mechanics, that kind of thing. When you started and graduated from the program, because that's always kind of fun to see how long people were in the program, as well as how recently you graduated, and then what you're doing now. So we'll do those introductions. I'll just go in the order of my screen: Meghana, Mia, Dolce, and Mallory.
All right,
So
I'll go
Megan,
ahead and start then.
what's
My name
that?
is, what's up?
Go ahead, Meghana, your turn.
My name is Megan Fatherpere. I use she, they pronouns. I did my master's I was on the professional track and I focused in robotics and control. I started in 2022 and I graduated last spring and I'm currently working as an engineer for Alstom on the trains at DIA.
Sweet. Hi, everybody. I'm Mia Miller. I use she, her pronouns. I did the MS professional track with a focus in computational modeling, simulation, and analysis. I graduated in May of 2022 after being in the program for about a year, a little bit longer, because I was able to do the bachelor's accelerated master's program. So went straight from bachelor's at CU to master's at CU. And I currently work at DNV as a wind turbine engineer.
Hi, my name's Dulce Gonzalez Beltran. I graduated from my master's in 2023, no, 24. I followed the thesis track, following the air quality track, and then I did my thesis on pesticide effects on, or pesticide exposure to dogs and humans in Boulder, along with a racer project for indoor air quality, air cleaner, more efficient and cheaper for the Navajo Nation people to use. And yeah, that's it.
Hey everyone, my name is Mallory. I use she, her pronouns. I started in the program in August of 2021 and I graduated last December, December of 2024. I currently work as a senior product engineer at Medtronic. When I was in school, I focused with a specialization in biomechanics. And right now, yeah, working at Medtronic, I focus on product redesigns for quality optimization efforts and just general improvements for released products.
Wonderful. Thank you. I like the nice mix of the different focus areas and backgrounds. So the first question that I have, and again, in the audience, if you have any questions you'd like to put in the chat, I'm happy to answer them during this portion. So what led you to pursue a career in mechanical engineering, and how did your time in the MS program contribute to your professional journey and career trajectory? So we'll start with whoever's most interested. Maybe we'll hear from two or three of you before moving on to the next question.
I can kick it off. So I was working as an engineer for a couple of years with my bachelor's in material science. Working in med device, some people know what material science is, some people don't. And so I kind of used my transition into mechanical engineering as a pivot for my career. So I moved out to Colorado. I was applying to grad schools and professional roles at the same time, and got accepted to both around the same time. So I ended up working full time while in school, starting full time in school and then going part time. I think for me, that was what worked best for me financially. It meant that I could still pursue a lot of the things that I wanted technically while continuing to advance my career, and I didn't kind of have to take a stop. It helped me transition further into the medical device realm. I applied to Medtronic with just my bachelor's degree, and they didn't accept me. So it took me a little bit of time to get into the organization that I'm working for now. So yeah, I think that was kind of the biggest thing, is it allowed me the opportunity to flex a different skill set, show that I'm more broad and kind of adaptable, and kind of highlight some of the areas that I wanted to focus on.
And Mallory, if I could ask you, once you did get your master's, were you able to either be promoted or come up for some kind of improved position in your company?
So I did receive financial kind of acceleration. I moved into the team as a senior engineer just because of where technically I had been with my previous experience. I'm a little short for principal engineering, but because of the master's, they've put me into a leadership program, and then principal engineer is kind of following shortly behind. So having the master's in the professional setting definitely does help with the acceleration of your career.
Awesome. Okay. It's always, because we talk about these things, but it's always good to hear actual stories of it happening. So,
Yeah.
does anyone else want to talk about what led you to pursue mechanical and how the program impacted that?
Yeah, I can hop in as well. I did basically bachelor's straight into master's, so my story of mechanical like starts as a undergraduate student, but I wasn't really sure kind of what focus I wanted to be in, and after taking some of the early career classes, it just made sense that I like mechanical because it can be very general and there's a lot of flexibility. You can like just be in lots of industries, have different types of problem solving. So that's what I liked, was that it was like lots of different avenues to go once you had a bachelor's. And then once I was kind of coming on as like a junior or senior, I realized that there was still all these classes I was really liking, but I was only getting like level 1 or 2 into it. And so that's what actually made me really interested in a master's, was being able to dive a little bit more into that simulation and computational modeling that I wouldn't have gotten with just a straightforward bachelor's as a mechanical engineering student. And that's kind of how I was able to get interested in the master's degree, but I also then tuned like the classes that I wanted to take based on, okay, I really liked this subject high level as an undergraduate student, and here's how I can dive a few more levels deep and learn more. So
Thank you. Let's move on to the second question, and I'd love to hear from Megan and Dulce. And feel free to sprinkle in the answer to the first one if you'd like into the second question. But what advice do you have for current students who are looking to maximize their educational experience and prepare for a successful career in mechanical engineering? I feel like questions 1 and 2 can relate a little bit. So what advice do you have for students? And feel free to use that, use your personal experience as you share that.
I can go ahead and start. So I think that it can get really easy to kind of isolate yourself in a grad program, especially when people are just kind of like doing their own thing. They've already got their first degree. They're just kind of like focusing on what they want to focus on and stuff. So it's really easy to kind of get in this little bubble of just yourself. I know that I did that my first year. I wasn't able to really make any friends. I felt really alone and stuff. So I would really kind of focus on learning how to network and gaining kind of more of those people skills and soft skills, because it's going to really help with not just like getting a job, but also like enjoying yourself in that job. Because it kind of sucks when you get a job and you don't know anyone and you're not really able to talk to anyone either. So I would really recommend, honestly, just attending the department's events, the College of Engineering's events, and really kind of getting to know the people in your cohort.
You know, I love hearing that response, because I co-teach a class called Socio-Technical Industry Skills here in mechanical for MS students. And that's one of the things we talk about, soft skills and connecting with as many people as you can. And when you're a student in the program, you have access to so much and so many people. So thank you, Megan. Dulce.
I would definitely piggyback off from that, and also add on connecting with professors and different opportunities, because you never know when a professor's, if someone you enjoyed talking to, or you enjoyed the way they lectured a class or anything, they might have a research position that's available, and that one puts you more time with them, they introduce you to more people, you get that networking experience, and for financial perks from what I experienced when I did my when I was a research assistant for someone else. I got some of my schooling paid off for that. So I got funding and got to pay off my master's with all of that as well. And I got to use that as a leverage to what I do now, which is air quality consulting, which is very similar to what I did in my research assistant's time. So definitely just try to connect. You never know what opportunities that might open up and how that might lead you into or project you into a career that you might like, or you might find out that you don't like it. And that's also a perk as well. It gears you to another direction.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a professor here and he said office hours get lonely because every class is required to have office hours. And I think students don't always think about how connected professors are because they have had classes of students who are future and future, they work in industry after they graduate or during, so they have access to a lot of professionals, if you think of it that way. And I think I'd love to see more students take advantage of that. So thank you both for touching on that. We have a question in the chat. It was sent directly to me, so feel free to send your chats directly or to everyone. But this question is, I'd be interested to hear about one or more of the memorable portions of the panelists' time at the program, either a particular class or a project or just some of the people you met, like students or faculty. So memorable portion of your time, a class, project, or people.
I'd have to say, during my research assistant time, I got to meet undergrad students that were just super bright. I was in awe of them. And taking them on with my project and meeting new people from the Navajo Nation down in New Mexico, and getting to have like a whole collaboration time just discussing air quality, what it's like to be a person of color and their financial problems, why is air quality super important to them, and how to reach out to those people, and getting to be that bridge between our undergrad students who didn't really know, what is air quality, what are we doing, why is this project so important, and showing them the bigger picture and getting them to connect. I really, really liked that. It was just so much fun. It made me want to do more projects that helps bridge that gap between student just learning and how it actually affects other people. So yeah.
Because you worked with Shelley Miller, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mhm.
Recently announced she's retiring. We're all happy for her, but sad for us. And she did a lot of urban air quality projects in Denver and actually connected with the community. So I loved her story. I love her story of that she just takes her work out into the community and you see immediate impact of your work. It's not just this theoretical it's an actual application. So thank you, Dulce.
One of the really memorable things for me was just kind of being able to have uh like diversity in the professors that I had, which really surprised me when I got to see you, because when I did my bachelor's at the University of Oklahoma, all of my professors were men, and just being able to have I had a semester where all of my professors were women, and it was just really nice to see women in like professor fields and be able to have those kind of role models. So I think that that was definitely one of the most memorable things for me, was being able to have female professors.
That's awesome. All right, let's move on to the next question. Thank you for that question. Feel free to send them in the chat. So can you discuss any challenges you faced in your MS tenure and how you overcame them? Because we do want this panel to be authentic.
I guess
I feel I was like,
Go ahead,
I'll
Mallory.
hop in on this one.
Yeah.
I think for me, my experience was a little different because even though I was in school and that was a high priority for me, my job had to take precedent. And so I was consistently scheduling classes around my kind of work schedule. And I started school full time and working full time, and that was way too much to take on. And so I think the biggest thing that I learned and the challenges that I kind of had to face was like prioritization and understanding like what you can feasibly do while still maintaining all the things that make you like a happy whole human being. And
Yes.
so like school and work are not everything. And so like learning how to build in time for yourself and take care of yourself and make those friendships and foster those connections with other people. I think that was something that like took me time to learn because I started being like, oh, I'll just like put my head down, I'll grind it out for 2.5 years and then I'll be done. And it took me almost 3 years and I was so much happier at the end than when I had first started. So I would say give yourself the patience and the time to like actually move through the program in a way that feels right for you and not some arbitrary timeline that you told yourself at the beginning.
That's excellent, Mallory, because you mentioned making friends. People, we talk about networking a lot, but I don't think we always think about how sometimes our best network are the friendships that we make. And so if you don't create time to do that, you miss out on that intangible thing that you're actually investing in, and you'll have access to. Because once you graduate and work in an office, it's a very different. Your field becomes much smaller. And then, because in grad school you have so many different classes, every semester you're exposed to so many different people, and so your opportunities for making those friends is pretty wide. And if you don't take advantage of that, it's a really a missed opportunity. So. Thanks, Mallory. But the balance thing is important. Mia, were you going to jump in on this one as well?
It's pretty similar, just in trying not to rush things. And there can be a lot of like lots of moving pieces that happen with grad school. Like you're looking for your next role at the same time that you're finishing your classes. I was being a TA, also president of a club that was on campus, and I was trying to still continue doing an internship. And yeah, it was a lot about time management, kind of you can be stretching yourself really thin, but one of the things that was really helpful was, yeah, having that support network of friends and like being able to say, oh, hey, we're all going to this office hour together. Like, then I don't feel like I'm just stuck there working on my homework with no plans. Like, I can go get that help and kind of bounce ideas off of other people. And also, I think just like being in a place like Boulder was actually really helpful for that because you can bike around, you can take a nice walk, you can just look at like the Flatirons, and honestly, like being in nature while I was juggling all those things, really working hard was one of the like my favorite parts of being able to kind of decompress and reset. So yeah, again, it can be a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces, but try and find that time for yourself, and the best way for you to like feel recharged, I think, is something I learned.
Yeah, this because I've lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as my home, and I love that today we had a cold snap a week ago, but it's in the 40s this week and sunny, so I have a hybrid work schedule. So after during my lunch break, I'm gonna probably either go for a jog or a walk, and it's really nice to be able to do that here. And that really helps with mental health and physical health when you're doing something stressful. We do have a question in the chat. And then Megan or Dulce, feel free to answer the challenge question if you'd like as well. But we have a question in the chat. How practical is completing the professional master's degree in 12 months? I have an opportunity where my current employer will pay for my master's as long as I complete it in 12 months. So during the 12 months, school will be considered my full-time job. I mean, I can answer this, but I know Mia, you were a BAM student. Mallory, you were kind of part-time, so your situation probably doesn't apply. Or Megan or Dulce, any thoughts on this? And then I can answer the logistics. Or Mia, if you want to touch on this since you were a BAM student.
I mean, I can comment on kind of what I did. So I think I'm pretty sure like the highest number of classes that was really recommended for a semester would be 4, and that's what I did. I did 4 in fall, 4 in spring, and then I had done 2 different summer ones and not at the same time. So the only thing would be having to probably do like 2 classes in a summer maybe to make it happen in 12 months. I think it was doable, especially because I had like a wide range of courses. Like maybe I took 2 or 3 technical, but there was also like engineering management course in there, which I learned a lot from and still gained important things, but it wasn't like signing up for 4 hard midterms like in each class every semester. So that was the only thing that I had to do to make it kind of happen within a year or a year and a summer, was because I was able to like add in a little bit more classes that were interesting to me but weren't very hardcore technical engineering. That's what I
Yeah,
would
so
say.
over this, yeah, pretty well said. The way you would do it, I'd recommend is 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring, and 2 in the summer. We don't offer that many graduate level mechanical courses over the summer, but that's actually changing where we sometimes do have 1 or 2. But in the program, you do have the option of taking up to 4 classes outside of mechanical and having them count toward your degree. And so that's how you can do something like an engineering management class, which is offered in the summer and is fully remote usually, or has the option to be hybrid. And so there are opportunities to do that. But I would recommend in your first semester, if you haven't been in school and you're going back after being out for a while, I recommend taking classes you feel more comfortable with because 4 classes is a really big load. Typically, students complete the program on a 2-year timeline and they take 2 to 3 classes. So that they can fit all these other things like Mallory was talking about. But in your case, if your employer is paying for it, it's kind of hard to say no to that. And you also have a huge pressure taken off of you that other students have, which is finding a job if you already have that employment in place. So yes, it is possible. Let's move on to the next question. You're welcome. So in your opinion, what are the most critical skills for a successful mechanical engineer? And how can students develop these skills during their academic journey? Let's hear from Megan or Dulce, because I know where we were going.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this is probably self-explanatory, but learn how to explain what you don't know. Because there have been instances where certain, well, when I was an RA, research assistant, whenever there was a question of, okay, how would this work? Or how does a certain topic apply to, air quality? Sometimes the question would get convoluted where they'd say, oh, never mind, I know my own answer. And then they'd move on, but then it's still lingering. Okay, but there's something I still don't know. So know how to find out what you don't know and then discussing it with other people. It happens a lot at work as well, like at an engineering consulting company where they state, okay, this is what we know and these are the rules. Yes, but then what do you not know? I know it's kind of like mixed in there, but yeah, learn how to ask what you don't know, I guess. That was really bad. Go ahead, move on,
No,
ask me.
no, Dulce, this is so good because our industry advisory board
Yeah.
have told us that our engineers need to be better at asking questions when they graduate. And I think you're getting at that. Because
Right.
some of you all will graduate, go out into the workforce and feel like I can't ask that question because that's a stupid question. You need to ask the
Mhm.
question. Even if it's not, you don't have it completely ready, you just need to put
Right.
yourself out there because you're not expected to be an expert by the time you graduate, especially in a new role, you know. So
Right.
and then you'll learn even more. And then that is an opportunity to build a friend, like a peer relationships or supervisor
Mhm.
relationships. Because people love telling you, it's like, oh, I know. So give them that opportunity. So no, Dulcie, I thought that was excellent.
Right. Yeah, but just to add on to that, it's really quick. It's also like if it's between a conversation of two people and you think, okay, is it this? Say it out loud what you do understand, so then that way it's not, you're both on the same page, because that also can get very confusing and can end up leading to disastrous results. And I can tell you many sensors that have been broken because someone thought, okay, she said this, but in reality, I don't think they really understood what happened. So many things were broken or things didn't work or calculations were done incorrectly. But again, it's a learning process. When you're new to something, like Vera said, you don't beat yourself up about it. You just keep asking the questions that you need to ask.
Yeah, and mine kind of like ties in with what you said, Dolce. I think one of the most important things is being able to like work with people and communicate with people because like everybody at this point has the technical knowledge. Everybody in engineering is everyone around you is smart. They know what they're doing to some extent. But I think that if you don't know how to talk to someone or if no one wants to be around you, then you're never going to get anything done. So it's really important to kind of know how to work with people, especially because we do so much work in teams. And the only way to get that team to function properly is if everyone like trusts and respects each other. So I think like I said earlier, the best way to develop those skills is to really like network and find people and like make friends, like we were talking about, and like know how to be able to talk to people.
Thank you, Megan. We just covered this in our socio-technical industry skills class. This came in, this idea, we were talking about informational interviewing, and I assigned a video where the author talked about, building relationships and likability. How do you become likable? It's kind of a tricky thing, but his suggestion was learn about the company and then ask authentic questions. And that ties in a little bit of what Dulce was saying. Because if you are seriously curious about something, you can build likability in that way. So excellent. All right, let's move on to the next question. Unless Mallory or Mia, if one of you are dying to add to this one, you can always jump in before I move on.
I would say the only thing that I would have is just like curiosity and adaptability. Like
Mm.
the if I could pick two words, like that's being an engineer in general, not specifically to mechanical engineering, but like that's what I would say.
Love that. I got like tingles. It's huge. Okay, so we did this one. What opportunities did you have for networking and professional connections while attending CU? And what about the city of Boulder and surrounding areas? How did that impact your career after graduation? This is for anyone.
I would just have to say my connection to my grad advisor, Shelley Miller, the second she knew I was interested in air quality and the second I knew I was interested in air quality, she put me in those positions of, oh, introducing who this is. She's interested in air quality. And that's how I got into all the research assistant positions, paying for my school. And then from there, getting to meet other students. Those students knew people in industry and consulting, air quality consulting. They connected, and getting to know them connected me to, the company that they were working at and whatnot. So yeah, definitely just the professors that I liked. They opened up those opportunities for me, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of building off that. The alumni network, I think, is really strong, especially in mechanical engineering. I recall lots of like kind of full days where mechanical classes just became alumni panels where they bring people in that relate to the course that you're in. They have lunch that's a networking lunch that's catered, just and I think that's a good place to also go, is just where's another mechanical engineer that went through this program? Where are they at now? And you get to kind of have that exchange of, again, it's just that like talking with people, learning what they're doing, then you can start to be understanding of what you want to do. And yeah, I think there's like us being on this panel is a pretty big exposure of that, where like we are alumni that want to speak highly of what we did and what our experience was, and that continues to be something that I noticed in the industry skills course that I took. Again, more panels with alumni coming in, sharing all these things. So it's definitely a big connection there that I think is unique to the program.
I can add one quick point. So I helped with recruitment while I was in school. And so I think the other thing to highlight is the people that are coming in to talk to you genuinely are interested in you. They want to learn about you. They want to help proof your resumes. They like everyone is doing really interesting stuff. And so to kind of piggyback on Dolce and Mia's points, like get involved, go to events, like just get in the practice of talking to people, explaining what you're working on, um, asking them about what they're doing, and just like you don't know what you don't know until you kind of have the chance to check it out. And so like there's no bad learning opportunities. So just like get out there and like even if you're outside of your comfort zone, they're all very like conducive and like helpful spaces. I helped out with some of like the SWE and like women in engineering events and some of the biomed programs, and being on both sides of the table. It's just a fun opportunity all around.
Thank you. This is great. I love this because teaching socio-technical skills, I'm like, you all need to come to the class because this is what we talk about. But anyway, we have 2 more questions for our panel. So audience members, feel free to throw more questions in the chat, either directly to me or for everyone, so the panels can see it or answer it directly in the chat. So we do have we have another 25 minutes, but we'll wrap up early if we do run out of questions. So this panel is for you. So feel free to put your questions in if you think of anything. So our penultimate question, second to last question, how do you balance the technical aspects of mechanical engineering with soft skills such as communication and leadership in your day-to-day work? So we've touched on this a little bit, and I think we've talked about communication, maybe talking more about leadership or some other soft skills that we haven't answered or we haven't addressed yet. That would be interesting to hear, I think. Like working on a team, ethics, always a good one.
I don't want to steamroll, but I can add something quick about
Feel free.
this.
Yeah, go for it. You're not steamrolling.
Okay. I was like, you can all kindly tell me to shut up. It's fine.
But,
I right now when I work on product redesigns, we have these like intensive events where we have people from quality, packaging, R&D, marketing, operations, like all in a room for 3 days, and we're just kind of brainstorming ideas. We're learning about like the product in greater detail. And I think like being a genuinely like curious, likable person, having those soft skills, that communication to convey points, being able to direct people and lead through discussions and kind of help with idea generation. Like, yes, I have the technical skills to understand a lot of what people are talking about, but the soft skills area, that leadership, that communication, again, ethics, working in med device, like we don't want to make a change to a device that could ever have a negative impact on a patient. A lot of what Vera talks about in her classes are feel like are things that we use in those of like building safe spaces for people to feel comfortable to bring forth their ideas. And so at the end of the day, we're all people. And so like recognizing that, I think makes it a lot easier to connect, and also recognizing that every single person has something to bring to the table. I think this was like old school thought for engineering, was that like, I know everything and I know best. There's somebody that's worked on the line for longer than I've been alive and they know way more than I do. They need the respect that is deserved to them. And so I think it's like really acknowledging the ideas that people are bringing forth and wanting to highlight those when they're worthwhile.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Oh, go ahead.
okay. So in my role, I actually go to like wind farms quite often, and I'm a consultant that's visiting there and doing an inspection of turbines. So it's definitely like an exposure to field work, which has been new and something that I'm kind of getting accustomed to. But with it, I think just having, yeah, those soft skills to be able to show up on site, not really knowing any of these people who work together every day, but being able to discuss safety and like feeling comfortable asking questions, like anything that I'm seeing, being able to understand what their procedure is for things, how they're handling this, what's an issue that they've had on site. Like there's a technical background when I'm in a turbine, like understanding how's the power generated, but there's all these soft skills of having a conversation, trying to understand, like working with technicians and site managers, what are their problems, what things need to be like better on their end, and kind of having that back and forth. So to me, that communication skill, or just like being willing to ask questions, following up if I don't understand what they were saying or what terms they're using, like just being very curious and not being afraid to seem like I don't know anything, because I mean, it's just better when I walk away and I know what I just inspected. So I think that's a pretty big soft skill that I just continue to build on.
Thank you. Megan, you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off what Mallory was saying and just kind of talk about giving each team member like the respect of listening to what they have to say, because I think a big part of leadership is letting other people lead when they have the kind of more knowledge on the topic than you do. Because I work on a team that's one engineer and then three technicians. So a lot of the technicians have been there 10, 20 years, whereas I've only been there 3 months and the other engineer started last month. So even though the engineer and I are kind of in this like management supervisory role, a lot of it I think is really like deferring to the technicians because they know what they're doing. They know the product like in and out, and just kind of giving them the respect to follow their leadership, but then also take charge when you need to. So I think that that's one of the important soft skills to have, is kind of being able to defer leadership as well as take the reins.
Thank you. And we have some questions in the chat. This is really, I love the specific examples here. These are great. We have a question in the chat. During your tenure within graduate studies, did you find there was a breadth of opportunity for interdepartment cooperation? If so, did any of your projects or capstones require said integration to complete, and what did that process look like? So interdepartment collaboration, anything like that?
One of the classes that I took, it was like a series of classes. It was a robotics and mechatronics 1 and 2. A lot of the people in those classes were mechanical engineering students, but a lot of them also weren't. There were electrical, aerospace, so like a bunch of different departments. And so you kind of get put in these teams, and you basically just do the final project from start to the end of the class. So really just kind of being able to work with different people from different departments and have like, say this person is good at electronics, so let them handle like soldering and circuitry and stuff. This person's really good at 3D printing and like laser cutting and stuff, so we'll let them handle that. This person is a computer science major and they're like really good at coding, so we'll let them handle the coding kind of aspect. So I really enjoyed that class a lot because it kind of gave me the hands-on sorry, my cat. Um it kind of gave me like the hands-on kind of like you do it yourself, figure it out kind of experience, but also just kind of having that interdisciplinary experience between different departments and people from different majors and things like that was really valuable to me, I think.
Yeah, thank you. We have another question in the chat, and feel free to add on to this one before you go on to the new one. But someone wants to know about what was the culture like in the class and in classes and on campus?
I think there's definitely people who are interested in teamwork and kind of creating like a little your own core cohort to go work through classes together. I at least felt like a good amount of the graduate mechanical classes kind of become a smaller class size, which is nice because if you're kind of with this, not necessarily the same 20 students, but you see someone in your 20-person class and then you walk to the next one and they're also there, I at least felt like most people were happy to be like, oh, were you just in that class? Or like ask a question, how's this homework assignment going? Like, I thought that there became really collaborative and people were really interested in working together. No sort of like, oh, can't work together because we're competing in any way. Like, that's not how any grades worked for my classes. It was always like, work together. And there's a good number of kind of like group projects I thought that were happening too, which creates that also like connecting with others and being able to work on things. So yeah, I think pretty friendly.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that from like a thesis perspective. A lot of like my intro thesis classes and I'm blanking on what the other one was or what it was called, but you see a lot of the same thesis students together. You kind of learn what everybody's doing because you're forced to, I shouldn't say forced to, but you're made to do presentations to kind of give updates, or if you want, of like other topics and whatnot, but most of the time people gave updates on their thesis. And everyone's just so friendly. You just kind of because it's so stressful. So you kind of just band together and, they give advice or they ask more about your thesis later on if they're doing something similar or working in a similar lab that you're working in. and they're all so willing to help, and so nice to, when you ask questions, they're, willing to answer them or say, you know what, actually, Mike Hannigan might know that, or somebody else might know that. And let's go talk to them, and they kind of like lead you through it, which I found so cool about it. Because not only is, master's so stressful, but if you're working on a huge project that, your whole master's is dependent on, everyone becomes so kind, and so understanding, and then you kind of create friends that way too. So yeah.
I can hop in on this too. Everyone was very inclusive. I was really fortunate that when I had moved to Colorado, I had some friends that were already in the doctoral program. So I knew people kind of a year ahead of me taking classes. So I was able to kind of link up with them, and we did some classes together. They were able to introduce me to other people. But especially because I was only doing like one class at a time, or I was on like a slightly different cadence than a lot of the other students, I was worried about it being isolating. And there were times that I was in like an engineering management class and I didn't know a single person. But every professor, I think, does a pretty good job of like fostering communities within their classes. And so even if you're only having classes with that group one time, you can still find a couple of people that you get along with that are in a similar field or a similar interest. And so just because you're on a different track or you're not in a specific cohort, it doesn't mean that you can't find that community space.
Thank you. I want to get to the question. This is actually I have to say, this is so nice to hear, because we who work in recruiting and trying to build that community within the program from the student retention side too. It's really good to hear this feedback personally. So thank you for sharing that. We have a question in the chat about funding, so I'd like to address that. Professional MS students are brought in without funding, although we have been working hard to improve offering scholarships. There are some donor awards that we were able to get, that students can apply to for traveling to conferences and things like that. And sometimes during admission, we're able to provide some scholarships for students. But as you can hear from students like Mallory, she got her company to help fund it because she would be working while going to school. And some companies, this is something you should ask if they have compensation for going to school. Some companies do provide that. But in terms of the master's thesis track, you heard from Dulce that she was an RA, resident assistant. That's full tuition coverage and fees and salary and health insurance. That's kind of like the gold standard, but it is, I want to be clear, that's rare. I think out of a program of maybe a handful of students every year, out of a program of, I think we're 180 or something students, that's just a handful. So it is rare. So students who are able to make connections with faculty, and if that faculty has funding, those are kind of the rare experiences. So in the program, that funding is primarily provided to PhD students. However, it is the norm if you're on the MS thesis track to get hourly pay for doing research. That's pretty common, and the hourly rate, it depends on the faculty member. And also every semester we offer opportunities for students to work as course assistants. Usually this is an hourly paid job, and I think that rate is about 19 something per hour. So students are able to apply for those positions, and we do put quite a few students on. I think maybe 30 to 40 master students every semester have anywhere from 5 to 20 hours a week doing that. And then students will find jobs in other parts of campus or in the town. So international students as well are able to do anything, any campus related job. So just wanted to address that real quick. Do any of you want to add to this? I just feel like that was more of like an information response. So, all right. Okay. And then, another question. Let's do the one in the chat. How did the master's program influence things in your personal time? Like, did any of the classes or projects have a push on things, like what you're able to bring to your job or how you interact with hobbies? So feel free. I read that in the question. I read that in the chat, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, panel.
So one thing that this reminds me of is I really like to ski, and there's actually like a physics and failure modes of like snow course through the mechanical engineering. So it's about like how avalanches form and like the science behind them. And I like to backcountry ski, so I have taken like some safety courses related to that. The only thing is I didn't get to take this course, but it is cool. There are some of these more in-depth like hobby related things. There's also one about like brewing coffee, and I think it's cool that we have all these courses. So because I don't know, in a MS professional like degree, you have 10 or so courses. So even if you really focused in one area for most of them, being able to say, take this coffee like brewing class or this failure of snow, like uh, I think there's space to be able to do something like that. But when we also think about maybe how these courses are related to my job, I like had a lot of focus in the optimization kind of simulation, but then I took a handful of like energy related courses, or I also took a programming course, and um, all those one-off classes, I actually am really able to leverage when I'm interviewing or I'm just talking about like other roles, which is probably like the most that like the best part of coming out of the program is taking this one programming for scientists course, and now I can tell people about like version control and how to appropriately update code and keep it stored. Like that's not an industry known fact for like mechanical engineers, and everyone's wondering how to do this. And one of the things is like, yeah, I took that course, I downloaded all of the presentations like afterwards, and I have my notes, and at any point I'm ready to just pull out those things, even if I'm not a programmer right now, when we need to like build in these standards, I can remember it from one course I took. So that's kind of what I wanted to add there.
I love that Vera added that design of coffee is one of our classes, because I actually took that class as an undergrad, and it changed my whole perspective on how coffee is made, how you taste it, the engineering behind the coffee machine, and where the coffee's coming from. And we also touched into not just the engineering part, but also how coffee is made, the communities that are impacted by that, the farms that are impacted, and the people who take care of those farms. Um, so just that well-roundedness of engineering, human society, how this affects everything. It really affects the way I see like, big corporate companies that sell coffee versus, buying my coffee beans now from a local coffee bean area, or when I travel to other places, where are they getting their coffee from? I ask those questions now, whereas before I would have never asked any of this. So
Yeah, I remember when this is Carmen Pacheco. She's developed the chocolate and coffee class, and then Dan Riff was doing the design of beer, which had like a 20-person wait list, which was funny. That's brand new. But she said when you're tasting coffee, taste it like you would like smell it like you would a glass of wine before you drink it, and that actually impacted how I think of coffee too. But the community aspects, yeah, that connection is interesting. All right, we have our last question that I will ask our panelists, and I'd love to hear from all of you. And then we'll wrap it up since we're getting close to 10, and I know you all have to be other places soon. So looking back, is there anything you wish you had known or done differently during your time in the MS program or early in your career?
I personally really wish that I had attended those department events and like College of Engineering events and stuff my first year, just because I am from Oklahoma, born and raised, and then I moved to Colorado not really knowing anybody. It was just me and my cat. And I was just like I was alone. I felt like I didn't have any sort of like support system here or anything. I had a lot of trouble making friends. So I really wish that I had attended more of those like departmental events and got to know more of my cohort earlier on. I think that would have really helped.
Thank you, Megan.
yeah. Um, I would say being okay with not knowing what was going on, especially when it comes to reading so many articles. I wish I would have just been more open to saying, hey, I'm kind of scared of what's going on. I feel like an imposter right now. I don't know what I'm doing with my advisor, because had I done that earlier on, I think I would have saved myself so much more stress. So definitely doing that, having that conversation earlier and saying, you know, what if at any point, you know, I feel like have no clue what I'm doing, what should I do? Because this is all new. I've never experienced this. None of my family's ever experienced this. So, you know, how do I navigate through my master's emotionally, I guess? And yeah,
Are you a first gen graduate student in your family?
I am, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Dulce.
Back on Dulce's point that you're a person first. I'm someone that wants to say yes to everything, and I did that my first semester. Um, and although I learned a lot, I had a lot of really good opportunities. I was pretty burnt out at the end of that first semester, and I knew that I still had a lot of schooling and a lot of work left to do. So it was allowing myself that kind of space and that time to, okay, let me take a summer class so that I can take one class during the fall semester instead of two. Let me make sure that I'm like building in time with my friends and like going to community opportunities, having outreach within my local spaces. I think it's easy to just be like, well, I just have to do X, Y, Z and do that 9 times over, and then I have my degree and I'm done. And you kind of have to let your plan be a rough idea and let it shape itself over time because your plan is going to change, your needs are going to change, and just being flexible and allowing that to happen and not getting frustrated with yourself along the way.
Curiosity and adaptability. I love it. Thank you, Mallory. Mia.
Yeah, I would say it's similar to Mallory. Just being flexible with the plan. One of the things that I wish I had done was maybe be okay with it taking a little bit longer than it did, but I ended up like ending my internship that I was doing in order to finish school because I mean, I did the bachelor's right into a master's. It was just kind of this rush to get started working, and all my friends that had graduated with bachelor's were already working. So to me, I was like, oh, I want this degree, but I also want to get out like and get started. And now that I'm in like the workforce and industry, I'm like, well, there was really no rush. Like another semester there I would only have learned more and being able to maybe have done my internship and taken an extra semester like could have been a nice way to have more on the job learning. But I mean, in the end, I'm happy with where I'm at and what I did. But again, being flexible to be like, this is a really cool opportunity and it's okay if it takes me a few more months because I'm going to get to do this. Like, I think that it's just something that I could have done.
Yeah, that's a really great way to end. When you're here, you have access to so much. And like Mallory said, you say yes. You want to say yes to everything and then you get burned out. So finding that balance, but then if you have a little bit more time and you can manage to do that, maybe do an extra internship, ideally paid, which could help you pay building your network. You still have that student card and that will prepare you even further as you progress along your academic career and then build the contacts that will and relationships. Networking is building relationships, and you have so much access while you're in the program. We're at time, so I wanted to thank our audience members for your questions. Thank you, prospective students. I put Megan Vara's email in the chat. If you have questions, email her about the program. You know what? I'll put mine in as well, even though I typically work with PhD prospective students, but I do teach a class for professional MS students. So happy to answer your questions as well. Thank you for joining. Thank you to our panel. You were excellent. It was good to see so many of you again. I know I've had most of you in my class. And everyone have a wonderful weekend. So hopefully you all apply to the program and we'll see you on campus in the fall. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.